Game Time Live continues. We look at the biggest playoff comebacks. Final 19 minutes of the game, the Clippers scored 72 points, which is almost what we witnessed in full games in the Eastern Conference in the 90s. Not necessarily good for Golden State, but great for the two bench scorers, quote unquote, and good friends in Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell, who have been a fairy tale kind of a story.
It's an outside environment in an inside gym. There's a program. There's different pros playing on different teams.
At the Drew League, you're going to see DeMar DeRozan, you're going to see James Harden. You go to New York, you're going to run into the New York guys. You go to the Goodman in D.C., you're going to run into Katie and all of those guys. And so us having our own thing, in ATL.
One summer, I talked to some of the guys on my team who was from Atlanta at that point in time in Houston about going down there and playing. I kind of went down there and just happened to get on the team with some guys that I kind of knew from the college circuit.
I might have been out of town, and they had just put some guys on my team. I started getting phone calls like, this dude with the Houston Rockets played on your team. He was killing everybody. And I was like, who? They was like, Montrezl Harrell. They were like, he in here dunking everything.
I was trying to find an open run or any type of pickup or any type of good play I can get in to just improve my game.
He spends a lot of time playing pickup in the summer.
He's always playing basketball. He's never taken time off.
You can go in the gym and do 1,000 workouts with cones and chairs and stuff like that, but those aren't real targets. Those aren't people that's trying to guard you and moving as you move.
Trez goes everywhere and play, and he played with Lou. Lou called him back to play again, played in the championship together, and ever since then, they've been having that little bond.
If you're around this game long enough, you'll find your running mate.
He was also doing a lot of teaching as well, just letting me know different things of how he wanted screens done and, certain spots or where he wanted the ball.
We ended up hooping together. The season went on, and I ended up getting traded to Houston. That same season that I had met Trez, so we ended up being teammates.
The Rockets have reached an agreement on a trade for the Clippers CP3.
Lawrence, I remember everybody calling us, telling us all the guys we got. Trez's name was one of them.
We learned very quickly in training camp, and we learned in practice what he can do.
He didn't play a lot in Houston, but what we liked about him in Houston was every time he did play, he was one of those guys that just made something happen.
He really opened people's eyes like, wait, who is this guy? This guy can play. This guy has a motor. This guy is tough.
Montrezl lays it in.
We embraced it, and we just try to bring a whole new, different energy to the team.
We start to get a reputation in the NBA with our bench.
It's a bench that you really feel like if you get down, you have cavalry.
Him and Lou, they got their chemistry together, and then that kind of just makes our team go.
It's kind of an unguardable combination. You have to pick your poison.
That two-man game is probably one of the best two-man games in our league right now.
Those two score 1.2 points per possession every time they run a pick and roll. For perspective, the best offense in the league is going to give you about 1.16.
Eye contact, certain places on the floor, he know exactly where I'm going to go. I know exactly where he's going to go.
You talk about two guys that fit perfectly, right? Having a savvy pick and roll guy is really important because he understands immediately, oh, I'm not covering that over the top. I'm throwing this lob, and with Trez's energy and athleticism, he's a go-get-it, right? Basically, it doesn't matter where you throw it.
The anger and ferocity that he plays with. I like that you can see sometimes a big man on the other team being like, I gotta deal with this.
Montrezl's ability to set screens, slip to the pocket, explode to the rim, hook shots, floaters. It makes them a real dangerous duo.
It's a situation where opposites attract. He's pumping up the crowd. He's doing that celebration like this. And then Lou he's always just so calm and cool and collected.
We got some fiery personalities in there, and I'm one of the laid back ones.
He doesn't say a lot, but when he talks, if he does say something, everyone listens.
He's a phenomenal leader. He loves the Uncle Lou, old man in the locker room thing.
Lou has that kind of personality that he's not a very talkative guy, but when he says some things, it's either real serious or real funny. That's just Lou.
I don't know, I'm not the old preachy dude. I'm not the old preachy guy in the locker room. If I'm asked something, if somebody want to talk to me about something, we'll speak about it. Or if I genuinely have an opinion and I feel like I can help, I'll say something to somebody.
Him being in that six-man And him coming off the bench and kind of, you know, being in that role, he already knew how to handle it, you know. So just being able to pass those words of encouragement, it definitely helped me out a lot, really.
The all-time leading bench scorer in the association, Lou Williams. Sixth man of the year again, probably a guy who might finish top 3 all the way to the right, and Montrezl Harrell. Guy who is not relegated to the bench, but maybe top 2 or 3 in the league, and Kevin Durant. Not necessarily happy not only about the play from Game 2, but long before even the playoffs began.
Let's go back to the whole last month of the season. We've been playing this way for a while. And when we got to this series, Game 1, we had some nice momentum. They're playing a gimmick defense, which has been working, top blocking everything on the perimeter. So guys not even looking at the three-point line. They're just forcing guys inside the three-point line. So for us, when I get the ball in my spots, I got a pest, Patrick Beverly, who was up underneath me. Well, I could definitely shoot over top and score every time if it's a one-on-one situation. But we got a guy that's dropping and helping, and then we got another guy that's just sitting on me, waiting for me to dribble the basketball. If I put the basketball on the floor, I can probably make 43% of my shots if I shoot them like that. But that's not really going to do nothing for us with the outcome of the game, because we got a nice flow. Everybody touching the rock, everybody shooting and scoring. So I'm not going to get in the way of the game because I want to have a little back and forth with Patrick Beverly. I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Are they tilting the floor? You mentioned kind of the defense they're playing. Are they overplaying it more than, or is there a time in your career you can remember a defense maybe in a playoff series playing you this way?
Yeah, for sure. I've been playing against every defense. It's not just that tight, but the constant help on my drives, the poking at the ball as I'm dribbling, two guys rushing me as I'm beating somebody off the dribble. That's how I learn how to pass the ball and kind of be patient, a little bit more patient before the catch. So, I gotta set up shop sometimes, and clear out space so I can get my stuff going. But in this series, it's kind of weird because, when the guy is that small, you got the advantage. But the refs see, we hear David and Goliath a lot growing up, so that story is pretty much prominent in people's minds. So when you put that out there on the court against me, then the ref's gonna give him a little bit more. So when he run up on me like a pit bull, grab me, hold me, I don't mind it. That's how he make his money. That's how he feed his family. But if I throw something back, then let us play. You get what I'm saying? So I got 4 or 5 offensive fouls like that. I'm just trying to figure out, each possession, how I can be more effective without getting offensive foul.
I don't think I'm talking out of turn to say what we've all noticed. Kevin Durant, and by the way, in case you weren't sure, we did not have a lower third at the bottom. I think that's Kevin Durant, in case you didn't know. Wow. I'm not Kevin Durant, nor are these two. Nope. But, yeah, we know he's frustrated, right? He's been frustrated for a long time with the media, all sorts of different things. But, Brevin, here's the thing, right? There's got to be a time where if you're Kevin Durant, right, you're LeBron, you take over. Right?
Well, this is the argument why I don't argue who I believe the best player to ever play the game was, because we would never be sitting here talking about why is Michael Jordan not going to work on a smaller defender, and there are no excuses. It's not, well, we move the ball and we play. It's you go get buckets. And this is the playoff time. If you have the mismatch, the NBA game is all about mismatches. Mm-hmm. And if the mismatch is you are 7 inches bigger than the guy that's defending you, then this team expects for him to go out and produce in that way. He has not produced that way, and I think that he has allowed Patrick Beverly's antics to get into his head more than worrying about playing the game.
The more you say, if you're really not bothered by something, go back to the Philly comments with the booze. The only guy who wasn't bothered by it, because I don't think he's necessarily bothered by, to his credit, anything anyone else says, is Jimmy Butler, who didn't really care. He was like, they should boo us. We stunk, right? You saw Ben Simmons was bothered. He might say he's not. Here, kind of same situation. And look, let me ask you about this, because I know it's a team game, and I get that. But is Steph Curry or Clay or Steve Kerr really going to object to him saying, get me this ball, I got Pat Bev on me, and I'm taking it every single time?
I agree. No, I don't think so, and I agree with you. When you have a mismatch, exploit it. See what you get, and then if it's not working, you have other pieces, other options. When you have a mismatch and advantage, you want to utilize that to create open shots for two of the greatest shooters in the league that we've seen in Steph and Clay. So I think you demand the ball, you demand a double team, and you go from there.
Right.
This team has not looked like itself, and everybody had said, well, they turned the switch on, right? They've done it before. Yeah. Teams have done it before. But does it feel different this time?
They don't feel
not just the 2 games, Brevin, but in general.
They don't feel as dominant as they were in the past. But I also think that a little bit it has to deal with we've seen this team together for years now. So now the comfort level of your team playing against them, and people are a lot more comfortable playing against them as in the past. In the past, everyone worried so much about what's the Golden State Warriors, and they got this, and they got that, and they score.
How are we going to stop that?
Exactly. Now it's not as much of a novelty anymore. And so once that wore off, now you just get down to the basics of basketball. And teams right now, that confidence that they're able to play with is allowing them to stay in games and allow the Clippers to come back for a great win.
You know what everybody forgot about too, Vince, is that even though they score a lot, that team defense is the biggest reason they've been where they've been, because they can stop you from scoring. And that last play where Shamet hits that 3 is kind of a microcosm of the whole last 17 minutes. And the crazy part is we're safeties, not sure who was supposed to make the cover.
Who are your defensive guys? So I think one thing Kevin Durant said about the last month of the season, they haven't played well. And defensively is one of the things they hung their hat on. Of course, offensively, we know they shoot the ball, but they created a lot of the transition threes, the highlights from their defense. Their switching defense. They have 5 guys who basically can guard anyone, and that's their system. But right now, you're seeing teams that feel like they can score against them at any time. The Clippers felt, yes, we're down 30 or whatever, but stay in the game. Pick at it. One thing you heard the soundbite that kept saying, keep driving, keep getting downhill. They feel like they one-on-one, they can break down their guy and get into the paint. Right. And that was a success for the Clippers to get them that win.
Don't think that Doc and his group were just going to be settling like they just won the championship of the Super Bowl either. Heading into Game 3, it is going to be fired up in Staples for the Clippers and the Warriors. NBA, where amazing happens. Speaking of amazing, I saw a lot of not so amazing things happen as a Knicks fan when this next gentleman, who has been a teammate for years now, was making all of my nights nightmares. Reggie Miller will join us. When we come back, we'll talk about the Pacers and how this version, who probably needs him, faces the Celtics in Game 2. What do they need to do to have it be a better outcome?
Whether he's going to play or not, I think it does change, some of the things that they do out there. So we'll keep our eye on it. I know it's going to be a game time decision as far as if he plays or not. I do. We're preparing for him to play. And if he's not out there, then we'll have to make some adjustments.
When you are, first of all, there are so many great coaching stories this year. When you think you have 3 or 4, then there's another and another. Nate's done such a good job. Brevin, when you lose a guy like Victor Oladipo, everything changes. And we watch them try and find a way offensively during the season. But isn't this exactly kind of what we saw? They're tough, right? They'll do a lot of the right things, but making shots without Victor Oladipo, not easy for this team.
Well, it's the one thing that they're going to struggle with most with Oladipo being out is figuring out how do they make shots? How do you get good shots on your offensive end? Oladipo is a guy that can not only create for himself, but he also can draw double teams that then allows his other teammates to live off of his plays. Without him being out there, now the defense is able to lock in a lot more. They're going to need Tyreke Evans to really come out of his shell and be a scorer. I think throughout the year had taken a back seat to Oladipo, but with him being on, he's a guy that can create his own opportunities, but he's also a guy that can create opportunities for his teammates because of his aggressive nature. They're going to need for him to step up, and if they can have an inside out with Turner, then that gives them at least an opportunity.
I agree, and I also think defensively they're going to have to create situations where they're in fast break situations to get open threes, easy layups, and get to the free throw line. I think they have to score with the clock stop. That we just showed Miles Turner. He's going to have a big defensive night. And shooting, you're going to have to knock down shots, plain and simple, if you're going to beat this team.
Indiana 1-8 this season when Turner scores 7 or less. Darren Collison has not been scoring. And look, we love, even like in TV, we love the supporting cast. Like Kramer, George, they're great. No Seinfeld and no show, right? So what do you do when you don't have the main guy? Brevin, from an offensive standpoint, getting rebounds and extra shots is important. In that third quarter, we were talking about it off the air. You look at those notes, they get outboarded by 8. You've missed 17 shots, they get 2 offensive rebounds the whole quarter.
Right, and the hard part about that is especially when Boston is big with Baines and Horford on the floor, it's going to be extremely hard to get the extra possessions. Can you move the ball well enough in your offensive sets that you get the Boston Celtics defense moving? Now you have driving lanes, you get driving kick situations, but manufacturing points, as Vince said, fast break opportunities. It was the Celtics with a 24-14 advantage in doing their fast break situation. So it's all about offense. If you look up and say that I've only given a team 84 points in a game, then you feel comfortable about where you can be.
Correct.
The problem is they only score 74.
You know, age is, we open showing Vince highlights, age is just a number. If you
Exactly.
want proof of that, you had no minutes restriction. Anthony Davis, I wouldn't say half your age, had a minutes restriction. I don't find that to be fair. We'll come back, we'll talk about AD. Of course, maybe not for the same reasons. Our boy Griff is in charge. What does it mean for the Pels? We'll take a look and listen. We continue on Game Time Live. No, he is not joining us on set, but looking just as pretty as our good friend David Griffin. Now, the man in charge of all things Pelicans. Earlier on Playoff Central Live, he chatted with our boy Ro Parrish about his new digs.
The executive VP of basketball ops for the Pelicans, David Griffin. Of course, I'm going to hit you with the hardball questions. Number one, who will you miss most sitting next to on set?
Boy, that's a good one. I think probably the czar. I think Coach Fratello really took me in a way that helped me get so much more comfortable. And because he came at the game in the same sort of analytical way I did, I think the czar is probably the one that's going to be the hardest for me to sort of separate from. And quite frankly, Ro, I would say yourself is somebody that's going to be very difficult for me to replace. And I really appreciate the fact that you went with that aircraft carrier not for me today as well.
Of course, I wore it just for you. So of course, I got to do it right and represent. You look good, you feel good, you play good. But of course, why this position? Why right now?
Well, you got to hear me say this many times behind the scenes, but the journey for me has always been about you have to find your owner. If you're going to build a franchise that's going to do things the right way and represent basically stewardship for the sacred trust that our teams and cities, I think you have to find your owner and the person you can do that in lockstep with. And I was not in the room for very long with Mrs. Benson and her ownership team before I realized that that journey could be over from my perspective. I was very, very taken by their vision of where they want to take this franchise.
So, of course, the obvious question everybody wants to know, in this business, we know relationships are everything. You have a previous relationship working with Rich Paul in Cleveland. He represents LeBron James. He also represents Anthony Davis. So have you been in contact with either of those two? And if so, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I've been in touch with Rich, and we do have a long, pretty successful history together. And it's a history that I think will allow us to draw out the best in each other, that we'll be able to challenge each other in a very positive way. I think from what I understand from Rich, Anthony's excited about the direction of this franchise. I have no reason to believe Anthony's not going to want to be part of what we're doing, but we do plan to sit down and sit face to face and really share vision and what it is we're trying to do together, because this is very much a situation where you're all the way in or you're all the way out.
So without playing your hand, what's the specific approach with AD? We all know about the trade demand. He wanted out. Is there a specific approach you're going to take working with him?
Well, I think ultimately let's sit down and figure out if we're meant to do this together. As I said, I feel like the relationship with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports is going to enable us to have a very open and frank conversation. He knows a good deal about me, and I feel like I know a good deal of what their motivations are as well. And I think we can be like-minded. I think we can achieve everything that Anthony wants to achieve in this league together, but Anthony has to believe that as well. So I don't have a tact other than let's find out where each other live and let's be honest with one another.
You and Alvin Gentry worked together in Phoenix. He was a coach that interviewed for the opening for the Cavs positioning. What is his future with the team?
Well, I was really excited about Alvin's presence here relative to the job. I think when you look at Alvin Gentry, you're talking about a guy that Steve Kerr and I hired at one time as the head coach in Phoenix and went on a run to the Western Conference Finals. Alvin believes in playing the game very much in the same way I believe in playing the game. And most importantly, as I mentioned previously relative to Rich and Anthony, what a history is supposed to give you is the ability to challenge each other and to fill in the gaps with one another. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I have a partner in this process in Alvin Gentry, and I'm very excited about his presence here.
Well, we're definitely excited. A little bit disappointed because you're no longer with us, but very happy for you in the new role. And more times than not, the smartest man in the room right there, David Griffin, on your screen. Thanks for joining us.
Ro, I really appreciate it, but if I got to be the smartest guy in the room, we're in big trouble. They're going to let us build a pretty robust group, so they'll be the smartest people in the room. But so you know, Ro, I had to leave so quickly. My locker's still open, so if you want to grab some ties and redo them your way, it's all you.
I got you covered. I'm going to take you up on that offer. I appreciate you, Griff.
All right, guys. See you later.
All right, just about the only man who's as efficient with his scoring, this time not with Nuggets the basketball. Lou Will, bench scorer. How about Mr. Everything, Kevin Durant?